on World Business Watch today, we put the focus on India's budget and the taxpayers. Are the ultra-rich paying their fair share of taxes? And that's what we decode on the show today. And we begin with the latest. The middle class drives India's growth but bears the brunt of rising taxes. While the ultra-rich thrive, experts suggest Budget 2025 must deliver justice, tax the wealthiest, ease the middle class burdens, and prioritize fairness to secure a stronger, more equitable future. Take a look at this next report for more.
As India gears up for Budget 2025, the middle class finds itself at a critical juncture, caught between rising aspirations and economic pressures. While policymakers debate taxation frameworks, the burdens of ordinary citizens are mounting, demanding urgent action. For years, India's middle class has been the engine of growth, driving consumption, entrepreneurship and innovation. Yet, they remain the silent sufferers of an imbalanced taxation system. While the ultra-wealthy see their fortunes soar through stock market rallies and benefiting from minimal wealth or inheritance taxes, the middle class bears the brunt of indirect taxes, stagnant wages, and soaring inflation. It's a cruel paradox. Those who fuel the nation's progress often shoulder disproportionate financial strain. The government has a chance to rectify this imbalance. Reintroducing a progressive wealth tax and implementing an inheritance tax on the ultra-rich could yield significant revenue without punishing hard-working families striving to secure a better future. Such measures can bolster public services, reduce inequality, and ease the pressure on middle-class taxpayers. Budget 2025 must prioritize policies that empower the backbone of India's economy, expand tax reliefs, rationalize GST rates, and invest in affordable housing, healthcare, and education. Protecting the middle class is not just economic policy, it's a moral imperative. Ignoring their plight while wealth concentrates in the hands of a few risks deepening social divides and undermining the nation's long-standing stability. This budget must stand as a testament to equity, justice, and hope for a stronger, fairer India. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And to discuss more, we are being joined by Mitali Nikor. She is an economist joining us from Goa. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Such a good time to be here. Happy Republic Day.
Absolutely, to you too. Now, let me begin by asking you, how can the government make taxes fair for the middle class? That's the issue they've been raised in our report.
So first of all, Josna, thank you so much for bringing me into the discussion. I mean, at the end of the day, we've been seeing a pattern of economic recovery post-COVID, which has sort of led us to the situation where we are today. You know, pre-COVID, what we were observing was more of a growth story for India for the last 10 years or even 15 years. India has been either the fastest growing emerging economy or amongst the fastest growing emerging economies. And what we have to see now going forward is how can India become a more equitable emerging economy? And for that, we need more progressive taxation, higher rates of taxation on higher income brackets, and we need more number of tax brackets. You know, it's not only about taxing those below 10 lakhs, but also taxing those whose incomes are above 50 lakhs, above 1 crore, above 2 crore. We need new tax brackets within the income tax system for these new income categories. And secondly, of course, we need to look at property taxation. We need to look at wealth taxation and inheritance taxation in different ways. But it is important to most significantly look at overhauling the income tax system.
Right. What you're trying to say is that India probably should introduce wealth and inheritance taxes for the on the ultra-rich.
No, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, this is, the stage of our economy where we're at. We have to start thinking about redefining what we term as middle income, upper middle income, and high income, because for many, taxation purposes, an income above rupees 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs per year is just termed as high income. But that is not the case anymore. Today, income patterns have changed, salary patterns have changed, corporate, salaries are quite differently structured. So therefore, it is important to start redefining a greater number of categories, understanding, re-engineering our understanding of what do we mean by middle income. And why is it that we are not treating an income above rupees 1 crore from differently from an income of 30 lakhs? I mean, the number of tax brackets really needs to increase. And what we also need to see is an ultra rich wealth tax for, say, those people who are earning above 10 crore, above 20 crore, above 30 crore. So we have to start talking about these numbers very specifically, because again, we don't want to end up with a situation where a wealth tax is imposed on somebody who's earning above 1 crore. That's not actually, wealth in the true sense. We need a wealth tax to be imposed on people with a larger corpus of assets and, properties and investments, rather than, salaried individuals. So, there's a whole debate around what kind of system we need.
Now, that being said, do you think, or wouldn't the taxing the ultra rich drive them to other economies?
So, I mean, of course, this is one debate that we've been struggling with, and there are a lot of reports which are suggesting, and we've also been looking at the data to find that the ultra rich are already diversifying and moving into other markets like Dubai and Singapore, and even, even in the US to some extent, where we're going to start seeing a reduction in taxation for the ultra rich. But at the end of the day, when we look at the Indian economy and the fiscal requirements of the Indian economy, there is some amount of taxation that we do require the ultra rich to start contributing. So, of course, it has to be a delicate balance. There have to be discussions with industry associations, with industry representatives before such, measures are introduced. Because, again, in India, we have a tendency of a knee jerk reaction. We don't want to have a knee jerk reaction. There's a need to engage with some of these stakeholders, with some of the family offices, with the philanthropists, to understand, what's the best mechanism that can work. Because the ultra rich that we're talking about isn't a massive class of people, and there is a lot of philanthropic work that they already do. So it is important to understand how the government can engage with them and, involve them in nation building, as opposed to alienating them through knee jerk taxation.
Right, now that was the ultra rich. Let's shift our focus to the middle class. According to you, what are the key policies should the budget 25 focus on for the middle class?
So I think the most important aspect today, I mean, even I'm from the middle class, I would like to say, right? All of us think that we're middle class. So I think the number one need of the hour is to understand what exactly do we mean by the middle class. There's a need for greater amount of data collection, for understanding data around expenditures, around incomes, to actually define what is meant by the middle class. That's the first step. And the second step is to then look at the cost of living and how can we reduce the cost of living for the middle class. And now this means we have to rationalize GST rates, because the income taxes on the middle class are of course much lesser. But the goods and services tax is something that the middle class cannot escape. So there we have to think about rationalizing GST rates for essential commodities, rationalizing GST rates for everyday goods, and then increasing GST rates on sin goods, what we term as luxury commodities, and try to make up the difference in that way.
Right. Now, let's also talk about this other topic. What steps can ensure economic equity and social stability in India? You talked about equity in the beginning.
So I think, one of the major equalizers which we often miss out on is infrastructure development. And that is something that, very few people understand. Why is infrastructure development an equalizer? But think of it this way. If you're living in a tier 3, tier 4 city of India today, earning an X amount of money, say around 10 lakhs a year, you might be well off within your city, but a lot of economic opportunities are away from you because the road connectivity may not be so good, the air connectivity may not be so good. You may not have access to the kind of logistics networks to export commodities if you are a business owner. So, therefore, this is where infrastructure becomes a massive equalizer. By investing in quality infrastructure for transport, by investing in renewable energy and sustainable infrastructure for powering and for the energy sector, and also investing in infrastructure like water, sanitation, and clean air technologies. This is how we guarantee a minimum standard of life, especially to the middle classes and the and to the low income classes as well, because in infrastructure is a great equalizer. It brings down the cost of living in many significant ways. If you can go and take a reliable public transport, say a bus or a metro in your city, you don't need to spend on a taxi. Right. So at the end of the day, these are investments that the government has to make for the future of the country, into our cities, into our rural areas, and improve the infrastructure, availability of clean water, availability of, LPG cylinders and piped gas, to reduce cooking costs for households and to reduce indoor air pollution. So, there is also an importance in investing in clean air across our cities, because it's not only Delhi today. Many cities are experiencing air pollution. So these are ways in which we can create public goods to
Right.
improve standard of living.
All right, well, let's talk about GST. Now, how can GST rates be adjusted to reduce the burden on ordinary citizens? We know that the GST on cars is 28%. Do you think that will not impact the consumption demand?
So, I mean, at the end of the day, cars are, I would, sort of put them aside, because cars are again a commodity which come in from a premium segment perspective. But two-wheelers, cycles, these are segments where we have to think about rationalizing GST rates, because two-wheelers and cycles, even now, if they are coming in at 18% GST, again, can we think about bringing them into the 5% or the 12% categories? Because these are the mainstay of the middle class. But of course, when we, talk about automotive or any commodity, when we say, okay, it's being taxed at X%, can we bring this down to X minus 5 or X minus 10? It creates a situation. There are two judgment calls to take. Firstly, what does that mean for sustainable development? Two-wheelers are not great for the environment or for the sustainability of the economy. So is that really the right move to make? And then secondly, the question becomes, how do you make the shortfall up in terms of the GST revenue that's lost? Because today GST is the second most important tax revenue after income taxation. So I feel like at this point in time, we have to think about a list of commodities, and I wish the GST Council meet had done that, where instead of deliberating on caramel popcorn, really the discussion should have been,
Yeah.
what are some of the essential commodities like cycles, like for example household kitchen equipment, or cooking equipment, which every single household, middle class household in the country is using. Stainless steel products, I mean, these are the kind of things where reducing the GST on these essential goods, or school uniforms, menstrual hygiene products. I mean, these are products in which the GST is sitting at around 12% or 18%. Can these not be brought down to the 5% category? I mean, I really think that we need a commodity by commodity discussion for goods which are bought by middle classes and by the lower classes, in order to ease the burden on cost of living.
All right. Well, of course, the D-Day is the 1st of February to see how that pans out. But thank you so much for joining us and giving the latest and understanding the whole issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you.